Now, the MV Augusta belly pan has been a thorn in our side for a couple of months now, and we've tried 4 or 5 different kinds of paint, made test samples, traveled to Gavin's and got paint, and so far we haven't had a lot of luck, to be honest. This part is really stumping the experts. But anyway, today we worked on it some more. I'm not sure if at the end of the day Vlad's going to approve. So if you're a regular subscriber and you watch videos on a regular basis, you know we have had a tremendous problem with the MV Augusta, the belly pan. Number one, getting the silver paint to match, which looks like that problem might be totally solved. But we also had some melting and some crazing around the parts where the part wasn't properly primed by the person who did it before me. So what we're going to try to do, and it's some good information if you're a serious painter. Some ways that I've been able to get around this. I call this the nuclear option, because this is really a lot more work than it looks when you watch the video. But to start with, anytime you have a problem with paint interaction or crazing, the first thing is be patient. Now this part is really going to be a lot of work to get. I want to sand. We put on a coat of the GAVIN'S silver and a very thin coat of clear, and I want to just, with some 600 sandpaper, scuff out any dust or anything in it. And I'm going to look for and I'll show this with a macro lens too, because these are things you could possibly avoid in the future on your own project. And this is really, this part here, you can't imagine how much time we spent. I've restored whole motorcycles with less time than it's taken me to work on this part, but we're going to get it in the end. So looking at the part out in the bright sun, I don't know if you can really see it, but around the edge of the letters, and that's where it's really needs a little sanding, and I'm going to be real careful about doing that. Again, the problem is once you pull this tape off, there's already a paint line there, and you'll never get it matched to where I'd be happy with it, and I know Vlad won't be happy with it either. So around the edges of these things, I'm going to have to do this carefully. Down here there was some areas where the paint wasn't happy, and there's some areas, I think it's along here, I'm not sure, I got to look under fluorescent lights, but up here it's not happy. See, this, what this is where you sanded, or the guy who did this before sanded through into the plastic and then primed it, and then when you put regular paint on, the thinner goes down into it and makes this what looks like an alligator skin. So we have time. We're going to take our time and sand this whole part down as best we can and then start all over again. Oh, I'm really not sure you can see this on a macro lens, but you can see the paint is not happy with what's underneath it. And up here in between this, that is really a problem. And, well, the whole thing is I don't want to build up a big thick paint edge, because when that tape comes off, that edge is a critical thing, and this is a critical part of the motorcycle. So all along here, the edge, that was one of the things when the original part got sanded, the person who did it went right into the plastic, and now we got to bury it in maybe even another coat of primer up here around the letters. I'm just trying to show this because this is the kind of thing that if you have a problem and you can't solve it now, there's only one way to solve it. You've got to sand it and go back and do it over again. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put on a really thin coat of primer sealer just to make sure we don't go back and have this contamination issue here. And that is a problem. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use some 400, the Pro sandpaper, and sand dry and sanding very carefully and patiently. Now I'm going to put the boring parts, like the sanding here, in fast forward, some of them, and some of them I'm just going to cut short, like this one. The problem is, if we were to leave this in real time, we'd have a 4-hour video. And getting along all those edges, when you fold the sandpaper back and getting right into the little crease, it's so labor intensive, and you have to be so careful you don't booger up the tape edge. This is just, like I said in the beginning of the video, this is the part where patience really pays. And once I get down into that little crevice, then I know when I put the silver on there, assuming this will be the final coat of silver and that Vlad will approve it, we could take that tape off without too much drama. but that's yet to be proven, and it's yet to be proven that this paint that Vlad got from Gavin's is an acceptable match to his fairing side that we already have here. But without getting those edges cleaned up now, once you have the clear on there, there's no way to get in there. You have to get in there with some folded up sandpaper, and it just takes forever to do this. It's a long, long time of doing it, but if you don't do it, you really pay the price later. So anytime you do this kind of work, you want primer sealer. It's got to say the word sealer on it, especially if you're doing plastic parts. Now the problem is we don't know what the gentleman that worked on these parts and put primer on and sanded through into the plastic, I don't know what material he used and if it's compatible with anything we have. Not all paints are compatible. Anybody that paints will have an adventure or two to tell you. Shaking up the paint, really good, really good. Now it's in our favor that it's a nice, bright, sunny day. And going back and forth, the idea is get one light coat of primer on, not a heavy coat, a nice light coat. It takes time to do this. It just isn't like dip it in a tank and it comes out silver. This is going to be 3 steps. Getting the primer on, give it 45 minutes to dry, half an hour, go have a cup of coffee. Make sure we haven't missed any spots or that there's any rough spots, because right now, if we had a rough spot, we can sand it down and just reprime it. So we want to double check it right now. Once we're done, this is the paint that Vlad got, and it's pricey paint. And I had the thinner, or the thinner is even pricey. That thinner is expensive too. I want to make sure the compressor has no moisture in it. Rock it while it's warming up. Shake the paint. This is a paint that's got a lot of ingredients in it. I'll make sure it's fully stirred up before we even spray anything out there. And I want to go back and forth from one side to the other, try to minimize any inconsistency, any zebra striping, anything. When I'm done, I'll go top to bottom, but putting this on in a lot of light coats, not one big thick coat. The reason is the thinner in a big wet coat will go down, and we've already had it melt what was underneath. So we know that the surface underneath it, we know there's places where before the original person went through into the plastic and primed over it and just left it like that. Well, you know, now those spots are vulnerable because the thinner in our paint can go down there and loosen it up. It's always the thinner that's your problem. Now, once we get this prime on, and I'm happy that we don't have any rough spots or anything I need to address. And again, this went into an all-day project. And everything about this project, there's not one part of this project that went smoothly. This is no exception. So this ate up the better part of a day in between dry coats. But finally, I feel like, well, we won't know. And again, Vlad has the final okay. And when I did what I thought was the little test of looking at it in the can, I thought, yeah, that's pretty close. But the silver always looks real close until you put the clear on. And then it changes a little bit when you buff it out. And you can change the color of the silver in a lot of ways by not shaking the gun or by not doing what I'm doing here, going front to back and top to bottom. You have a lot of variation when you're doing anything silver or gold, just like when I did the gold wheels. Well, it takes a little more planning and effort and everything. But the difference is, if we were painting this white or black or red, a simple color, like we're going to do the Mv Augusta parts, well, it's going to be easy peasy. A flat, non-metallic color is a lot easier to deal with. And silver and gold, especially doing parts like this, they are the worst. We're going to use the GAVIN'S clear. We bought the paint from GAVIN'S. This is the clear from GAVIN'S. And here's where it always gets tricky with metallics. You look at it before the clear goes on, it has a certain look. When you put one coat of clear on, the look changes just a little bit. Now in this case, right at this point, I can see already the flakes that are in this silver, the one Gavin made, the flakes are bigger than the flakes in the Mv Augusta. Now because this is on the bottom of the bike, and to be honest, you really don't see it that much, but I know Vlad being a perfectionist, he may not be happy, and then we have to go to plan B and plan C. We're already on plan D here, I think. Well, anyway, there's one more option if this doesn't satisfy Vlad that the color is matching. And what I would do then, the next choice on this would be that I would call up Brodax and see if Patty at Brodax still has any of the old silver that has no flake in it. See, the B25 silver has flake in it, but the original silver, the original one that I was one of the ones that came up with the formula when George Anderson was alive and we formulated all the Brodax colors, we did make a silver that has no flake. But it'll be model airplane paint. That's the nuclear option. I don't. Well, the next step on this project is obviously this is gonna have to sit at least a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. And then Vlad is gonna have to come over and get this tape off, because he's gonna find out it's not as easy as it looks. But I think overall, I think this is the best we possibly could hope for, given what we started with and what we have now. I don't know how you can make this better. I've tried every trick I know, and I think in the end this is going to be, once the tape is off, then we're going to have to put at least 5 coats of clear on this and bury those letters in the clear. It's a super labor intensive job. This piece is as much as restoring a whole motorcycle. So I'm already planning for the possibility that Vlad will not be satisfied with the color match. And in the next few days, I will call down to Brodax and see if they still have any of that model airplane paint that has no flake in it, and hope that the silver is close, but I don't know, of course. But we have really run out of options. That's the problem. And we have tried at least a minimum of 5 different paints: water-based, European paint, Gavin paint that Vlad had that was supposed to be Mv Augusta matching, and it wasn't. And it's very frustrating, believe me. I wish this would have gone, and this would be a typically 2 or 3 day job. I've done jobs that have been a nightmare. This certainly qualifies as one of them. But we still haven't given up. And it may be that Vlad will be happy with it, but again, we don't know. That's going to be in the next couple days, week, whenever he can get over here. And we are hammering our head against the wall to get this perfect. But at some point in time, there's a point, and we're coming up on it soon, that we're going to have to compromise. But I'm not going to make that decision yet. This is Vlad's motorcycle, his parts, and we always have the choice of trying more stuff. And I have really tried to put everything I know, all the tricks I know, on this video. I know it's gotten long, but we're still working on it.